They don't want to do it from the front, they want to do it from the rear.
And Jason Bright knows just how that feels after claiming a record third Clipsal 500 for the rampaging Red Barons. 3 weeks ago, Brighty's inspired charge from back to front maintained HRT's domination of the Adelaide streets. But Ford's frontmen served notice the blue oval means business. Craig Lowndes' stunning win in race 1 showed old Henry has some heavy artillery and he's not afraid to pull the trigger.
Oh, no. Scape and Lowndes have come together on lap 60 of 78.
After 500 kilometres of mishmash and crash and bash, the scene is set for another thrilling confrontation as we welcome you to Sydney's Eastern Creek Raceway, round 3 of the 2001 Shell Championship Series, exclusive to V8 Supercar Super Television. Network 10.
For the last 2 years, Mark Scaife and the Holden Racing team have dominated the field at this track, and in 5 of the last 7 outings here, Holden have taken victory. This weekend, the battle resumes. Welcome to the western outskirts of Sydney and to Eastern Creek International Raceway for round 3 of the Shell Championship Series. Well, in this paddock, it's notorious for politics and gossip, and there's been a lot of discussion in the last couple of weeks since the Clipsal 500 about the extraordinary number of on-track incidents down there. Let's have a look at some of them. There were about 7 or 8 of them, very big ones, plenty of them. Now, we're not here to judge the individual incidents, but these types of situations can certainly change the course of a championship, and unchecked, these kinds of problems can turn into a real drama with drivers making their own justice decisions. Now, how many of these things were punished? Well, virtually none. Only Jason Bargwanna was given a stop-go penalty. In the view of many people, it was black and white, not a case of grey. And on top of this, there were start line infringements, pit lane violations, people dawdling at restarts, and it was all virtually unpunished. Barry Sheen joins us once again. Quite extraordinary. I've never seen the drivers or the team managers so up in arms about officialdom.
Well, you have to say the officials are consistently inconsistent. You know, as an example, there was supposed to be a stop-go penalty for any of the drivers or the teams who let bits like wheel nuts or wheels go into the pit lane. Well, at least 2 teams, to my knowledge, let stuff go into the pit lane. They got fined, I don't know how much, 2,000. Well, it's immaterial.
They basically got flogged with a feather.
Exactly that. I mean, really, the reality is, it's quite simple. This is the rule book. It's black and white. It's even I can read it, and they don't read it. They don't listen to it. And basically, what they were doing, they're saying, well, okay, you can cure it by just paying a cheque. And to the big teams to pay $2,000 is like you're right paying $5.
And what the drivers and the team managers were calling for last night at the drivers' briefing was rule enforcement. All they want is rule enforcement. Sometimes the umpire is going to come down against them, and you wouldn't want to be an umpire in this game. It's a rotten job.
Well, you really wouldn't. But you see now, say for example today, if somebody's holding, say, Bargwanna up or whatever it is, Bargwanna can just punt whoever it is up the backside, knock them off. And if Ham's trying to do anything, say, well, hang on a second, Radicic got away with it last week, so it should be fun.
Plenty more discussion, but back to the business at hand. Yesterday, the top 10 shootout was fantastic. Here's how they'll line up. And Marcus Ambrose took pole position. What a great time, 1:30.8. Craig Lowndes so close behind. In fact, it was all Ford in the top 4. Stevie Richards and Glenn Seaton for FTR. Greg Murphy, the first of the Holdens. John Bower with a new car. Then Todd Kelly, Jason Bright, Jason Bargwanna and Mark Scaife making a very unusual mistake in the shootout to be back there in 10th place. But it was all Marcus Ambrose. A great performance for his first Shell Championship Series pole.
Well, pole position at the Australian Grand Prix support race is one thing, but your first pole position in the Shell Championship Series is quite another. Marcus Ambrose, you've done it in only 3 races. What an incredible achievement.
Yeah, it's great. I dedicate this to the team, really. You know, they've taught me a lot as I've come along, and we're working all the time to improve the car, and they just tell me, listen, Marcus, this is what you've got to do. Just try and do it, you know. So, yeah, this is a team effort, and yeah, I'm just grateful I'm with these guys and with Pertec, you know, just having fun.
That was an amazing moment yesterday afternoon when you got pole position. The team just must have been so wrapped.
Yeah, even I couldn't believe the time when it came up on the screen. You know, I thought, wow, that was a bit fast. You know, it was one of those laps that it was either going to work or it was going to end in tears. And you know, today it worked for us, so we had to try that again.
Now tell me, qualifying's one thing, but can you beat the Holdens here today? It's a tough ask.
Yeah, I'm still learning on the race form. Yeah, we have to do the pit stops, get in and out of the pits. You know, the boys had to do a good job on the time for the tyres. So I think we can, but we just got to put it all together.
Wish you all the best today.
Thanks.
And remember, the format has changed this year. Today we're going to see two 26-lap races with a compulsory pit stop, but let's have a closer look at the track. And we've got a 3.93 kilometre circuit here at Eastern Creek. It's situated 40 kilometres to the west of Sydney, out near Australia's Wonderland. It's a beautiful facility. There's an enormous crowd on hand today. 12 turns, unbelievably tough on tyres. Mark Scaife has pole position record here. He's also got the lap record. He's going to be a tough man to beat if he can get through this field. But let's have an even closer look at the track now with Greg Murphy with the Kmart inside line.
Well, welcome aboard the Kmart Commodore for a lap around Eastern Creek. We're just heading into turn 1 here, which is usually taken in 5th gear. Through fast corner, about 200 kilometres an hour. And then you're hard on the brakes down into turn 2 about the 100-metre board. Down all the way down to 2nd gear. Usually a lot of action down here, a few passing manoeuvres going wrong. Easy on the throttle out of turn 2. Quick up the gearbox to 3. Around turn 3 into 4th gear. Up over the top of the hill. This is a tricky one. A few passing manoeuvres down here. Back to 3rd gear and then easy on the throttle. It's going to be pretty easy around here. You want to hold the car over as much as you can to the right-hand side. A quick brake for turn 5, staying in 3rd gear. Accelerate hard out using all the track up to 4th gear and then to 6 and 7, which can be tricky as well. 3rd or 2nd gear for this one, using all the track on the way out. Get on the throttle as much as you can under the Goodyear Bridge or Corporate Hill into 8, in 4th gear still, through there, easy on the throttle again if you guys have lost it going through that one. Hard on the brakes into another good passing place, down to 2nd gear at turn 9. Easy on the throttle again. This place is pretty hard on the rear tyres if you start pushing too hard. Up to 4th gear. I hold it in 4th all the way through here on the rev limiter. Into 10 and 11. Heaps of shingle on the road for all the guys have been knocking onto the circuit. Then into 12, still in 3rd gear. Important to get a real good run here as the sun's in my eyes. On the straight, 4th gear. Into 5th. Accelerating up to 270 k's down the main straight at Eastern Creek, into 6th gear, and hopefully that's going to be a quick lap of Eastern Creek. See you later.
And Holden's fortunes rest with Greg Murphy today, qualifying 5th on the grid. The cars are going out on the circuit. Join us after the break with the first heat today on Network 10, your home of motorsport.
The damage on the door of Stephen Johnson. And he's just
a massive jump.
Probably loading up the rear tyres. Looks like he was getting away from a bank robbery there. Well, Sydney has gone V8 Supercar mad this Sunday. An enormous crowd into the Eastern Creek facility. There's lines of traffic barged up, built up around all the gates trying to get into this place. Absolutely incredible electric atmosphere for round 3 of the Shell Championship Series. And no doubt this tremendous battle has been set up between Craig Lowndes with the Ford and Mark Scaife with the Holden. Really has captured the public's imagination. They're in here in their droves. Marcus Ambrose, though, on pole position. Outstanding performance from the Ford driver with Craig Lowndes alongside Stephen Richards and Glenn Seaton. So it's a Ford quartet in the first 2 rows. Long time since we've seen that. Greg Murphy, the fastest of the Holdens.
Yeah, there, Jason Bargwana, Mark Scaife, Russell Ingles struggling in practice, Mark Larkham, Stephen Johnson, David Ballard, Paul Radisich and Stephen Ellery.
Yeah, it was a tough day in qualifying. Cameron McLean and Garth Tander. Boy, oh boy, that Valvoline Cummins team's in trouble at the moment. Cameron McConville, 19. Paul Morris from Queensland starts out at 20. Larry Perkins and Dougal McDougall. Brad Jones still struggling back there in 24.
Yeah, John Faulkner, Tyler Mecklin, Paul Romano, Anthony Track, Trevor Ashby, Dean Canto, Tony Longhurst. Wow, that's a long way back for him. And Peter Dorman.
Yeah, plenty of V8s here for what will be a fantastic contest. Two 26-lappers.
I've never seen a crowd like this, Mark.
No, I've never seen a crowd like this at Eastern Creek. It's phenomenal. It's almost back to the motorcycle Grand Prix days. Very difficult to get. Now let's have a run through the in-car cameras that'll provide all the action for us on Network 10 this afternoon. Garth Tander a long way further back than he'd like to be. So too Paul Radisich, the Shell team, always struggling with a bit of mid-corner speed around Eastern Creek, as they do at Phillip Island too. They're fine on the point and squirt sort of street circuits, but boy, here they're struggling. Craig Lowndes, though, is a man not struggling, carrying the in-car Ford camera. He was very quick in qualifying yesterday, just 3/10 slower than Marcus Ambrose. Puts him on the outside of the front row. Watch him go. Kmart car. Carrying another one of our cameras, Greg Murphy, who did a brilliant job yesterday in qualifying, but when it came to the top 10 he got knocked down a few. But he's been showing a lot of speed in the Kmart car this weekend so far. Expect a strong performance from him. Well, Neil, what can we expect here? What an incredible atmosphere at Eastern Creek. I haven't seen anything like this for years, but now it looks like it's getting quite cool and quite overcast.
It's excellent. You know, just the vibe out there at the moment is fantastic. There's so much rivalry in the crowd in this Ford Holden battle, but you're exactly right. It has come over a little cloudy. On board with Mark Scaife. Scaife yesterday in all sorts of bother in the braking area at turn 2, looping the Commodore, got both pedals, that is the brake pedal and the accelerator. He's just trying to warm up the rear tyres at the moment as he comes down to the line. But I think the hot topic of the day, Mark, is going to be tyres. Everybody's going to talk about tyres and degradation. This place is notorious for really knocking around the right rear tyre because of the number of left-handers. They're long lateral load corners. The time intervals around the corners are very long, and so it's going to be a race not only for peak speed in the initial phase as we look at the Ford race analysis, but how you look after that rubber.
Incredibly difficult place to pass this, Neil, isn't it? I mean, into the first hairpin. This turn 2 on the first lap is going to be major.
26 laps the distance, just over 100 k's for each race, 32 starters, and they've got to go for their compulsory pit stop for tyres between laps 8 and 18. Mark Scaife, of course, the winner here last year.
We've already hit the expected top temperature for the day in Sydney, 21 degrees. 23 is the track temperature. There was a 70% forecast chance of rain last night. Let's hope it stays away.
Well, what an amazing sight. Turnaround in 2001. Fords to the fore. It's been a long time since we've seen the Falcons dominate qualifying like this. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4. First of the Holdens, Greg Murphy in 5th. Then John Bowe debuting the new Caterpillar Ford. He's 6th quicker, so a good day for the Blue Oval yesterday. But that man we're watching there, Mark Scaife, fastest in the warm-up this morning. Watch Holden Racing Team go.
Racing for race 1 at Eastern Creek, and Lowndes makes a blinder, and Seaton up on the outside. Ambrose gets an ordinary start. Murphy goes and argues and grabs 3rd spot. But it's Seaton who came from nowhere. Well, look at that. That's an extraordinary margin in the first few hundred metres down to turn 2. Can they get through here cleanly?
Elbows are out through turn 1. Everyone hard under brakes. The Shell Fords in the middle of the pack there. Indication of the struggle they had throughout qualifying. We go high above turn 2. Give you a great view of the action. The field sort themselves out over the bridge, tumbling down toward turn 4.
Somebody off on the grass there.
But Glenn Seaton, a brilliant start from the second row. Oh, problems here.
Kando and Ashby off at turn 3 in the grass. Now, Seaton had a problem in the warm-up this morning, had a front suspension failure, which dropped the car on the road over at turn 7. It took a long time to recover it. Obviously, they've fixed that problem quickly, got the car back up on its knees again, and he is going like a blur.
See the car just struggling to get the power to the ground there as he comes out of that turn. Craig Lowndes filling his mirrors. The Kmart car 3rd. Marcus Ambrose, the pole man, drops a wheel off the side of the track. You see him getting very sideways. Coming around the outside of Corporate Hill, manages to gather it up.
Glenn was always very strong here at Eastern Creek in the days when they ran the Triple Challenge events, as we go on board with Craig Lowndes. In fact, he was the last Ford man to win here in 1997. The secret to Glenn's success at Eastern Creek, looking after tyres.
Fantastic battle here. 5 Fords, 5 Holdens in the top 10.
Ambrose struggling. Yeah, got crossed up and had to correct the car on cold tyres.
He had a big moment coming around Corporate Hill on that first lap. Looks like the car's not quite got the grip that he wants at the moment.
Plus, he's really in at the deep end, isn't he? Let's face it, 2 pole positions in his first sort of debut season of V8s.
Huge cheer from the grandstand crowd as Glenn Seaton leads him across the line the first time around. Lowndes in 2nd. Murphy in the Kmart Commodore in 3rd. Then it's Ambrose.
Lowndes had a lot of understeer through turn 1 that time, and Murphy's car looked well balanced and on line, and he's got right into the back of the 00 Ford.
how Cherry Picker shot high above turn 2. Bird's eye view. Field now starting to settle down into single formation.
Give you the rundown. It's Seaton, Lowndes, Murphy, Ambrose, Richards, Kelly, Bright, Bow, Scaife and Bargwanna. That's the top 10. Beyond that, Ingle, Bernard, Larkham, Johnson, Ellery, Radisich, Tander, McLean. Look at this. Ambrose getting close.
Yeah, it looks like his tyres are up to temperature now. He's really stuffing the front of that Pertec Ford to the back of the Kmart car. He had a wild opening lap, but looks like he's got himself in the groove now. He's all over that Commodore as they head down toward turn 9, round Corporate Hill. So the Fords are charging in the opening laps of round 3. Lap 2 of 26, looking out the back of Craig Lowndes' car. And Murphy's in trouble.
Sideways there.
Sideways coming out of turn 9. Marcus Ambrose has been able to capitalise. He just gets in front of the Kmart car, and Ambrose now forces his way up to 3rd.
Oh, little tap. Oh, that was close.
That'll be retaliation, because I imagine the reason that Murph was crossed up is he may well have had Ambrose in behind him.
Yeah, into the hairpin, yeah, right.
Yeah. Elbows are out in these opening laps. Marcus Ambrose now has his mirrors full of the Kmart Commodore. Then it's the second of the FTR Fords. Big sheer as Glenn Seaton leads him across the line. Craig Lowndes in second. Marcus Ambrose in third. It's Fords. 1, 2, 3 at the moment. Murphy, Stephen Richards, Todd Kelly, Jason Bright, John Bow, Mark Scaife now into 9th, and Jason Bargwanna rounds out the top 10.
Fastest lap so far, a 1:33.78 for Lowndes. Seaton's done a 1:33.80. They're the only 2 guys in the 33s. Everybody else is in the low 34s. There's the rundown.
So pits will open 8 between laps 8 and 18. They've got to come in for their compulsory tyre change.
Lowndes did a race simulated run yesterday of 15 laps, and the car was consistently in the low to mid 34s. There's probably a little more sunshine on the road yesterday, which in some cases around this track can mean that you knock the rear tyres around even more, but the car looks good at the moment. So does Seaton's. This is going to be a great contest. Now we've got a Shell Helix replay here of the start, and you'll see that Glenn Seaton comes off position.
Wow. Didn't that thing bite? How quick did he come out of the
ripper, wasn't it?
Come out of the blocks. Look at Murphy running along the concrete wall on the other side.
Off position 4 for Cito and straight to the lead by turn 1. That was a great job. Excellent start.
Position.
Look at all the dust and debris on the outside there. Real dangerous territory to be lurking in.
Yeah, Craig Lowndes is looking dangerous here. He's really looking very comfortable, sitting right in behind that FTR Ford. And watching the progress of this 00 car throughout practice and qualifying, looks very, very comfortable around this circuit. The Gibson team just tuning the chassis to perfection.
We'll get an idea of what Glenn's chassis is behaving like here. The car looks pretty nice and neat, makes the apex. He's already starting to look a little defensive going down into 2.
Ambrose looks good.
I think I mentioned before on one of our telecast guys that Glenn's one of the few people in the field that does a lot of left foot braking, a carryover from his karting days. Looking forwards, now looking back. Now this is Marcus Ambrose. Stephen Ellery.
Super Cheap Autos team in trouble. But he gets back in. Meanwhile, we're back in the battle for the front. Hard on the brakes as they swing around the hill. Look how close Lowndes gets behind Seaton now. Craig may be just a little bit gun-shy about sticking the nose of the car up here. He had it shut off at big time in the streets of Adelaide by Mark Scaife.
And Lowndes still showing aggression. He's using second gear at turn 7, and generally when you're trying to look after the rear tyres a bit, you tend to want to use third gear just to give them a breather. So he must be happy enough with the balance to be able to give the rear tyres a little bit more.
Marcus Ambrose hopefully learned from that mistake at Adelaide where he got tangled up with Todd Kelly. He's looking comfortable in 3rd at the moment.
The Kmart racing team have been on the radio to Greg Murphy. The thing that they're saying is, bit of caution, Murph, conserve your tyres. Those guys are confident the Ford runners up in front of him will burn them up as this race goes on.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating contest. Who's got the right setup? Who's driving the cars well? Who's pushing hard enough? Big cheer from the crowd every time Seaton comes past in the lead here. Craig Lowndes in 2nd. Marcus Ambrose in 3rd. Murphy and Richards round out the top 5.
See them all searching for dirt on the inside to try and get the cars to hug to the apex. There's a Shell Helix replay of this situation with Ellery. One of the Valvoline cars involved.
Bargwanna, I think it is. Not be 35.
My X-ray vision's not that good today.
Yeah, I was just saying
So lap 5 of 26.
It was Bargs because he's the one that's just come to the pit lane, I believe.
Pace of the race settling down. Fastest lap so far for Marcus Ambrose. That was on the previous lap. A 1:32.99 for the Pertec Ford driver. Bargwanna is into the pits after that collision. It looks like he's done
Tie rod on the right-hand side is bent.
I was going to say, it looks like he's damaged his steering as a result of that incident. Mike Exel and the boys there feverishly working away trying to get him back into the battle. But Bhagwan has been the strongest performer of the two Valvoline Cummins cars throughout qualifying, but even still, those cars are not performing up anywhere like they were last year. Look at this, Mark Skaife now trying to fight his way back through the pack. He's still in ninth, behind John Bowe and the new Caterpillar Ford. Keep in mind that was the worst starting position for Mark Skaife in a championship round since Winton back in 1999. So this is a very strange reversal of form for Mark Skaife this weekend. Three Fords punching their way down the straight. Let's have a look at the Shell Helix replay. Look at this with Bhagwana and Stephen Ellery.
So this is on the exit of turn 2. I see.
That was Ellery. Didn't leave him any room at all, did he?
Gee, look at that. Well, they're big, tough old buses, these V8 supercars, but there's only so much they'll take. The streets of Adelaide prove that. And Bhagwana now will be bitterly disappointed.
That's very costly, and that'll put him to the rear of the grid or close to it for the second race today.
Why would you say Glenn is so good at looking after his tyres here?
Well, just looking at the championship points there, first of all, Barry with Bright leading with 703. He's back in the order still at the moment in 7th place. Lowndes still closing. Teammate Skaife second, Ingle, Johnson, Kelly Richards. Basically, Glenn's always been a guy that's very meticulous about his car balance, and he's not a throttle slammer, he's not a throttle fanner, he's a very smooth guy on the throttle. He's a guy that hates oversteer, so I think on tracks like this, where you've got to keep the car very straight, Glenn's driving style is rewarded.
You get the impression with these cars just sitting behind him bumper to bumper that he may be holding them up a little bit. I get the impression Lowndes may be able to go a little bit quicker if he can find a way past, but he's not going to take any risks by the look of it this early in the race.
Well, Barry alluded to that point earlier, Mark, that one of the difficulties on this track, because of the complexity of the corners, they're long and ongoing. It's actually quite difficult to stuff a car up the inside of another unless that other car happens to be very weak in one area, and that's what Lowndes will be analysing at the moment to see whether there's anywhere that he can exploit a gap.
Had a word to Craig Lowndes just prior to the commencement of this race. He says right now this car is running the best that it has been since they acquired it. They've been spending a lot of time, as Neil knows, doing some development on it, but right now Craig feels that it's the best that it has been. Very, very confident indeed.
And run down the inside into turn 2. And Bernard's out of the boonies there at turn 1. I wouldn't want to be out there for too long. And was there a place change? No, Ambrose is still third. Last Saturday and last Thursday on board with Mark Skaife. Lowndes and Gibson Motorsport tested at Winton. Continued to learn more about the car, what it wants, what it dislikes, and whether there's anywhere that we could exploit some extra performance out of the car.
Keep it playing, mate. Keep it playing.
Rob Starr, Mark Skaife's man on the headsets in the pits, just telling him to keep it calm. He's got a very wide Caterpillar Ford in front of him. It's been an uncharacteristically bad weekend so far for Holden Racing Team. That number 2 car, the brand new car being debuted by Jason Bright, who was most uncooperative throughout practice and qualifying. They started to dial it in a little bit toward the end of the session yesterday. Skaife, as a result of that uncharacteristic spin in the top 10 shootout, he found himself back in 10th.
We had to get our statistician Nigel Greenway to dig through the dusty records and find that the last time that Skaife was that far back was Winton 1999. So traditionally this bloke has been pretty good at getting himself up to the top of the field.
Still the quickest lap by Ambrose, 32.9.
Just goes to show when you get...
Another couple of laps will bring you in.
So he's got the word. They're going to bring him in pretty early in this window. Opens at lap 8, so it's open now.
The reason for that, if anybody feels that they're tripped and tangled in traffic, the minute the theoretical pit window actually opens, you bring your car in and in an effort to try and get the job done and get it back out with clean air. Well, we're going to take a break from this exciting first race at Eastern Creek with Glenn Seaton leading, Craig Lowndes 0.2 of a second behind from Ambrose, Murphy, Richards, Kelly, Bright and Bowe.
Mark Skaife and Russell Ingle round out the top 10 all the way down to Cameron McLean in 16th. Back with more from the Creek in just a moment.
8 laps completed, race 1 at Eastern Creek, round 3 of the championship, and there's a sensational battle at the top of the field with Seaton leading. Ambrose has gone to second, Lowndes has dropped back slightly, and Murphy is monstering him.
I tell you what, if I was the Stone Brothers, I'd want to get Ambrose's signature on a long-term contract, wouldn't you?
He's done a great job so far this year with pole at the support event at the Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne, and then real strong outings in every one of the tracks that he's turned up at, in particular this, because pole position in this field is a hard task.
The real test here, though, is going to be tyres, tyres, tyres. And look at Ambrose, he's pushing that car pretty hard. I've just watched it, a couple of corners, it's getting a little bit ragged, like it's right on the limit of adhesion. It's going to be working the tyres pretty hard, so it's going to be interesting to see how Marcus hangs in at over 26 laps around here. Because these are only early laps now. The compulsory pit stop window is open.
The last lap for Lowndes was nearly a second off his previous lap, which suggests that in this manoeuvre where Marcus Ambrose was able to go by, something happened. So Shell Helix replay tells the story. We're looking from Craig's car. He's gone up onto the outside. I see it's because he's actually had a go at Glenn Seaton, and that was an invitation for Marcus Ambrose, I would imagine.
Yeah,
and I reckon there he is.
Yep.
Thank you.
So in actually vying for the lead, Lowndes has dropped second place and gone back to third with a written invitation to Marcus to come on in.
That's given Glenn Seaton a little bit of breathing space, but it's only a car length or two. Look at Lowndes goes right over into the pit lane.
What's going on then?
This is the situation. They want to try and jump the queue. We're the first car to peel off and wait for the field to come back to you.
I'd have to say...
He's been joined by John Bowe and Mark Scape as well.
It's got to be a good idea to get it over with as quick as you can, isn't it, Neil?
Well, I mean, you've only got to look at the history of these races, Baz. It's always the guys who pit early that are competitively placed toward the end of the race. It always happens. So, Gibson Motorsport car calling Scapes in as well. Good quick stop from the Holden Racing team. Oh, very close between Paul Morris and Craig Lowndes. Lowndes has come out ahead of Scape. He gets back into the action.
Mandated pit speed limit is 60 kilometres per hour, but the limit doesn't apply until they get almost into the little chicane that brings them into the lane, so they can actually come off the racetrack at very high speed. So this car now on cold tyres, no tyre warmers in V8 supercar racing other than what the sun can provide.
It's amazing that they do. They leave them out in the sun.
They do leave them out in the sun. It's actually extraordinary how much temperature and pressure build-up they'll actually get in the sunshine.
I reckon it's a smart move by Gibson Motorsport. Get Lowndes in early as possible. They paid the penalty at Adelaide.
And he's now got clear road, and that's the significant thing, Mark, because on a clear track he may make a tenth or two here and there. And believe me, 3, 4, 5 tenths of a second might be the difference between actually staying on the podium here or even being on the top spot.
That's the thing, you don't want to get stuck in that queue. If you know you've got more speed. Oh, problems here for Paul Romano.
Now, will that Ambrose in? Will that bring out the safety car?
I wonder.
Just Murph goes with him. Reminder of the pit speed. Stop on your marks. Critical that the car pull up in the precise location, otherwise the guys have got to move the rattle guns and move the wheels and the nuts along.
Well, I'm not sure if that's going to bring out a safety car at the moment, but Paul Romano's car looks well and truly stuck in the trench there. Race director Tim Schenken may determine it's not in a too dangerous position. Only time will tell. Ambrose gets back into the action. So it's all happening down in pit lane.
Mark, it's happening down here at the mount at the moment, because I tell you what, Greg Murphy came in behind Marcus Ambrose but went out in front of him. So some gains made by the Kmart team. A good stop also by HRT.
Now, this is very bad news for Glenn Seaton. He's on the circuit with the safety car boards out now, so the field will compress and Glenn's going to be trapped.
We're not standing still. Glenn, hold on. First speed.
Stephen Richards too will be in the same predicament. So that's it's so important to get that compulsory stop out of the way.
I think we dialed into local FM there. I'm not sure what that was all about.
Yeah, after this, there's going to be no doubt that everybody's going to be in as soon as they can, because it's everything we've seen this year. It's got to be the best move.
Close call for Jason Bright down here when he just had his pit stop. Of course, we know that there's plenty of penalties around for the moment for anyone who runs over a wheel nut or loses a wheel. The team nearly did that to Brighty, come within maybe an inch of driving over the wheel nut, which rolled away from the car. I don't think it rolled away far enough to incur a stop-go penalty, but gee, you can't do that here this weekend.
Well, you just pay for it by check, don't you, these days? I mean, you don't get dragged in.
Safety car on the circuit, and this is a real problem for Ford Tickford Racing. Keep in mind, you cannot make your compulsory pit stop under safety car conditions, so Seaton will have to stay out on the track.
I bet Cito's melting the aerial on the radio on that thing at the moment.
Absolutely.
And that's just the luck of the draw, really.
Yeah.
That's not a strategic error. It's just something that happened. Paul Romano's gone off in the Young Lions car. It's trapped Glenn at just the wrong moment, but you never know. Another opportunity may unfold for him. Now, you might be interested to know of those that have made their stops, and we've got to go all the way down to 15th. Lowndes has come out in front of Murphy, 16th, and Ambrose is 17th. So if you want to get a view of what might unfold as these pit stops are taken, we may well end up in a situation where Lowndes is back in the lead.
It's one of the disadvantages of leading these races too, because if you're out in front and an incident happens, you're usually not able to capitalise on it, but the guys behind you certainly do so. Glenn Seaton and Stephen Richards, though, at the moment behind the safety car in first and second on the track, all the way down to David Bernard, who's 8th in the queue at the moment.
Further beyond that, we've got McConville, Perkins, Faulkner, Ellery, Ashby, Canto, Lowndes and Murphy, and that's significant. Join us after the break on Network 10. Glenn Seaton coasting in the Ford Tickford Racing Falcon. Safety cars on the circuit, 12 laps into this 26-lap first race. Now, some of the cars in this field have made their compulsory stop. We suspect that Lowndes is effectively the leader after a sequence of stops where these guys will peel off. He's buried back in 15th at the moment with Murphy behind him, Ambrose behind him, then Brighton and Scape.
John Vow in there too. So that's really your lead battle once all the cars in front peel off for their compulsory stops.
Jason Barguani, you've parked the Valvoline's Cummins Commodore. What was the drama?
Well, unfortunately it's been a steering arm, but we had a bit of rubbing in the first corner there, and it wasn't a problem, but as the lap's gone on and the forces on the steering around here, it's just kept getting bent, and it's got worse to the point where I had no steering. So, what do you do? Take a smile and come back again and try again. Thanks, Jason. No problem.
That was a shame. Barguana really had a good go yesterday, didn't he? In the top 10 shootout, he got knocked out of it and got out there and got back in it again. It was a shame.
Well, he really dug himself out as we resume racing with Seaton leading from teammate Stephen Richards. 13 laps in the bank.
Well, this is a situation that Glenn Seaton and Stephen Richards are going to hate, because now they're leading this one. They still haven't made their compulsory stops. They've got to make it before lap 18, so they're going to be peeling in pretty soon. But now the field back under full green racing conditions. A lot of the guys have made their compulsory stops. That's going to put them right out of contention. Very, very difficult. Just the luck of the draw in a lot of cases, Neil.
And after a period of time, teams will learn what will and won't work at certain tracks. But, I mean, the message that's beginning to come through is get the stop done as early as you can, because you never know, literally, what's around the next corner. And in this case, the Romano incident has trapped a lot of people.
All they can hope for now is another safety car just as they come in to change.
And talking of safety cars, we've just had a message passed to us that 3 cars passed the safety car prior to it peeling off, and that's a no-no.
Oh dear.
And that'll mean that they'll get a stop-go, or will they be flogged with a feather?
You can never tell these days. Glenn Seaton, Stephen Richards, Todd Kelly, Russell Ingles, Steve Johnson, Garth Tander, Mark Larkham, Bernard, McConville, Perkins, Faulkner, Ellery, Ashby, Canto. You've got to go back to Lowndes in 15th. He's the first of the cars in the queue that's made his compulsory stop. Lights ablaze for Greg Murphy. He's second in the queue there. Marcus Ambrose still third in that queue.
And this raises another interesting thing to focus on, and that's the ability of a driver and obviously the balance of his car as Seaton peels off for his stop, which was expected, and then they're going to bring Richo in on the next lap, I believe. What you like in dealing with the slower traffic. So, you know, will Lowndes or Murphy or Ambrose or whoever get an advantage as they try and push their way through. A whole swag of cars are coming to the lane, led by this man, Glenn Seaton.
Well, that's going to hurt. It's really going to hurt the FTR squad. David Bernard in as well. So Bernard's come in very late.
It's happy hour in the pit lane. They're all in there at the moment for a little luncheon meeting.
I think that was Perkins came in as well, or was it?
Oh,
close.
Greg on the radio. Gin's really saying get that car out there in a hurry, and Seaton has come out behind the 17 car. So Stephen Richards leads this event at the moment for the time being, but we expect him in shortly.
These are the wheel nuts that are being, or would have been used today on Craig Lowndes' Ford. They're a special nut that the team has designed. It fits in like a sleeve there inside the wheel, and what it enables the team to do during the course of a stock, they can put the wheels straight up on the hub. This almost finds the thread straight away. The boys spin the nut on, and it's done up nice and tight. So it's a nice little time-saving measure. The controversy is the officials have stepped in today and said, no, this forms a part of the wheel. It is not allowed to operate in that manner. What the team is saying is wrong with that is if you tip this wheel upside down, the nut pops straight out. It's not a permanent fixture on the wheel.
They're saying that the nut is not retained, and the officials are saying it is retained, so they'll argue about that one for a while, no doubt.
Well, I think good on Gibson Motorsport. I mean, they've had a go. They've done it all within the regulations. If you turn the wheel upside down, the nut falls out. So that's what the regulations say.
Fairly typical of motorsport, isn't it? Arguing over retainers.
Very good, Mark. That was excellent.
Yeah. Pay that one. Stephen Richards led the race for a lap. Ashley on the air hose.
So this has really been bad for FCR. Glenn Seaton, boy, oh boy, would he be annoyed. Stephen Richards too handily placed in the opening sector, but when that safety car came out, they got stuck at the front of the queue, and now they paid the penalty because we're back at full green racing conditions and they've lost a ton of track position.
And that's really a tough break. You know, they just happen to be
the wrong place at the right time, really.
Yeah, that's you wouldn't really call that a strategic error, I don't think, but it's the luck of the draw. We've seen it happen at Bathurst many, many times.
I suppose when you've got a two-car team, the idea is maybe bring one in as soon as possible and leave one out. Well, who knows? I mean, at the end of the day, you can talk about it forever.
The problem is with our game that all the theories work with hindsight.
Yeah, exactly. We've all got perfectly clear hindsight.
But quite often, if you're leading these races, particularly the longer, the 250k races like at Adelaide, you can be leading the race, an incident happens a bit further back in the pack. If you're leading the race, you're actually disadvantaged because the cars behind will take that opportunity to peel off into the pits. Taking a punt, the safety car is going to come out, and quite often the leader gets caught out on the track. Marcus Ambrose getting very close to the back of the Kmart Commodore as they thunder down the pit straight once again. The crowd are sensing, and you can hear them, sensing that Craig Lowndes is starting to rise to the top of the bubble.
He's now officially the leader as everybody else has peeled in for their stops, including Kelly and Larkham. So it's Lowndes with a margin of 1.3 seconds over Murphy, and it's Ambrose down the inside for turn 2.
This is exactly what Craig Lowndes will want now. Settle his car down. Just minimum amount of wear and tear on the tyres. Just drive it nice and smooth while these cars battle over second place behind him. We'll watch them in the rear view mirrors.
One of the toughest corners, turn 3 on this track for car balance. We're looking backwards from Craig's car at Murph and Ambrose, and this is another tricky corner. We went over there yesterday and watched, Mark. It was interesting to watch the car behaviour there. You can see which cars are happy and which cars are not.
Yeah, so the drivers that are fighting them, they're torturing the tyres, and the drivers are working too hard at the wheel. Watch cars like Lowndes and Ambrose and Murphy particularly, who was very fast in qualifying yesterday, just like an air carpet ride around there.
That's a quick lap, 32.9 to Lowndes.
And it's the fastest lap of the race so far, and I wonder whether the team, as Ambrose has a bit of a sneak up the inside.
I think he's had more than that. He's right alongside. Yes, inside, but Murphy's not going to give him even a sniff. Cuts back across in front. Ambrose just pulls the nose of the Pertec Ford out of that battle. But he's really carrying plenty of speed in this car, as he has all weekend.
It's really funny to hear, but all the cars, they just hit the rev limiter as they come into their little complex.
Yes, in 4th gear on the way up to turn 10. They get stuck into the hard cut there.
You'd have to say the parity now between Ford and Holden, I'd say, was pretty good. Certainly judging by the performance here now, these two cars very evenly matched in race trim.
You might wonder why Greg was looking down there. He's not checking his crutch. He's probably making an adjustment on the anti-roll bars, either for the front or the rear, to try and trim the car a little better, to try and come up with it.
Oh, he's giving him a hit too.
Oh, yes. Those two are going to get on really well after this, aren't they?
Wow. Marcus Ambrose, man in a hurry. Certainly let Murphy know he wanted to get past. So, plenty of hustle and bustle for Marcus Ambrose as he gets in front of the Kmart car, but now it's coming back on the attack.
Do you reckon Murph sees Pertec or a target?
Definitely a target.
Well, that helped Marcus Ambrose braking ability a fair bit coming into turn 2 that time around. So he's showing he's a pretty tough customer very early on in his V8 Supercar career. Keep in mind, this is only his 3rd Shell Championship race in a V8 Supercar, is 4th in all if you include the Australian Grand Prix support races. Don't forget, round 4 of this fascinating contest between Ford and Holden moves to the Northern Territory, Hidden Valley for round 4, 13th of May, 2:30 till 5 Eastern Australian Standard Time. And it should be a great battle, as it is here at Eastern Creek. Enormous crowd in here, watching a fantastic contest.
One of the beneficiaries of strategy and certainly good car pace has been Mark Scaife. There he is in 4th place, and he's catching these two guys now. And behind him his teammate Jason Bright. There's Bow. So look down this order, it's Radisic and Morris. Brad Jones has done very well in his pit stop strategy as well, and has leapt up through the field, so that's encouraging for the Aussie male entry.
Really typical of Holden Racing Team, though, isn't it, Neil? We see it so many times. Sometimes they might get here, and on the odd occasion the cars aren't quick as soon as they drop them onto the track, and they do a very good job of dialing them back into speed condition.
If you want to know how costly it can be to wait when something goes wrong on the track, Glenn Seaton is back in 19th position.
Yeah, ouch. And a 26 lapper, unless you get another safety car, very, very hard to make up that amount of ground.
And his teammate Stephen Richards is 16th. So talk about hero to zero.
Fastest lap of the race, a 1:32.86.
Oh, it was Engel.
Engel, yeah. Isn't it amazing, the reversal in form? This man was absolutely on fire at Adelaide. Around the bumps and the point and squirt sort of circuit. A couple of these tracks where they've got to carry a bit more mid-corner speed, and he's really struggling again.
Looks like he's got dust in his eyes.
Just getting consistency at one of these V8 supercar chassis, Neil, seems to be one of the greatest challenges for engineers up and down pit lane.
It is, and the behaviour of the cars can sometimes change dramatically, even though you've changed nothing day to day. So Russell gets out in the weeds, and he's all crossed up on the dust and marbles. He was very lucky he didn't actually throw it through the gravel trap then, and he just stays with it on the green. It matches nicely with the Castrol there.
Have a look at this from inside.
Oh, I see. He actually picked up too much of the grass on the inside, which kicked the car out from underneath him, and it just kisses the edge of the gravel trap shell. Helix replay tells the whole story. Bounce, bounce, bounce.
Heart rate's at about 220.
Tony Longhurst has also done well. He's up to 12th from 31st on the grid as Russell Ingall battles to come back into terms with this field. Led by Craig Lowndes, Marcus Ambrose, Murphy Scaife, Bright, Bauer, Radisic and Brad Jones in the top 8.
Paul Morris and Paul Wheel round out the top 10. Stephen Richards in 16th. Plenty more coming up after the break. This is the Shell Championship Series.
7 laps remaining for Craig Lowndes in the lead of this race. The Gibson Motorsport Ford car 00 with a margin on the last lap of 2.3 seconds. He's about to cross the line again. We'll see whether that margin is extending or contracting, but things look pretty comfortable for him at the moment. There's the gap, back to Marcus. Greg Murphy, Mark Scaife, and it's 2.5 seconds, so Lowndes is actually starting to waltz away slightly.
I was talking to Fred Gibson and Alan Heafy from the Gibson Motorsport team yesterday, and I said, well, come on, you guys, when do you reckon the new car, the first Gibson Motorsport built Ford's going to hit the track? And they go, oh, well, yeah, it'll happen. I think they're pretty happy with the performance of the Stone Brothers car at the moment, so there's no pressure on them to get that new car ready. I think, Neil, they're probably building up toward the endurance races.
Depends who you talk to. You might not have any pressure.
So what do you get then, Neil? You get Craig, you get this one, do you?
I'm there at 3 o'clock every morning with a shifting spanner and a star screwdriver, and I'm into it.
You're the only bloke working on the new car.
Someone help me, please.
Yeah, you've got an itchy trigger finger, our commentator. He can't wait to get back into the seat. And who can blame him with the performance of these Gibson Motorsport Falcons? Boy, oh boy, what a good car to jump into.
It would be so nice for him not to bring that little plastic steering wheel along stuck on the desk here.
That's right. So the order, Craig Lowndes.
You don't mind me being dressed in the suit and helmet?
No, it's quite normal, Neil. No, we understand.
Greg Lowndes 2.5 seconds the gap over Marcus Ambrose in second, Greg Murphy in third, Mark Scaife in fourth, John Bow. This is the battle for 6 between Bow and Paul Radisic.
Good for JB at last. From when they first wheeled that car out and stuck it on the track, he's been really pleased with it. It's so much better than the old one.
We're just running through the places and margins for you, so you've got an idea as to who's where. We're on board with Paul Radisic with 5 to go. He's attacking John Bow. There's John off to the right. Paul's looking for clear, clean air down the inside. He might have a bit of a temperature problem, maybe. John does some grass cutting for him. These these guys battling for 6th and 7th. Really probably an improvement on the way things have gone for Paul in the practice and qualifying lead-up. I spoke to him yesterday afternoon. He wasn't happy with the balance of the car, and it highlights the point that Mark was making, that at some tracks you go to, you've got a car like at Adelaide, there is a bunch of guys who, like Paul, who had just a beautiful car that was working terrific, and then you turn up here and it's not so good.
Brad Jones will be happy with this, though. The Jones brothers team did a good call on that pit strategy. They're in 8th just behind this battle. Paul Morris did well, and Paul Wheel rounding out the top 10.
You noticed we had a caption up there a moment ago. Todd Kelly, the fastest man in this race so far, with a 1:32.8. He's the only driver to get into the 32s, along with Lowndes and Ambrose. Everybody else has got into the 33s, so that's good, but it's too little too late for Todd, who's down in 17th. He was one of the drivers trapped by that situation with Paul Romano in the safety car.
Good performance this weekend, a stronger performance from both the Super Touring champions. Brad Jones and Paul Morris inside the top 10. It's been pretty difficult introduction to V8 Supercar for both of those guys, but they'd be happier about this result. Jones in 8th, Morris in 9th, Paul Wheel in 10th. Cameron McLean, the Queenslander, had that big engine blow up at Adelaide. He's looking stronger here too, just outside the top 10, 11th place.
Lowndes has pulled out another 10th that lap on Ambrose.
4 laps remaining for race leader Craig Lowndes. 2.6 seconds the gap over Marcus Ambrose in second. The time's fairly close. That last time around, Ambrose was only 2/100ths of a second slower than Lowndes. So the Pertec Ford and the Gibson Motorsport car very evenly matched at the moment. Greg Murphy still in 3rd, Mark Scaife in 4th, Jason Bright in 5th. It's a good performance from Bright and the Holden Racing team to knock that new car into shape. It was proving a bit difficult in the opening practice and qualifying sessions, but now it looks like it's got some reasonable sort of race speed.
I'm down here in pit lane with Paul Forgy, the crew chief for the Pertec Falcon. Marcus is doing a terrific job out there at the moment, but it seems as though the gap to Craig is too big.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit to catch for only having 3 laps left in the race now. And, there's always a second one. We'll have a go then. We're starting from the front row again as long as we finish where we're sitting on the grid now.
What's the message been very quickly to him since he got past Greg Murphy?
Just to keep it steady and try and pull in Craig as quickly as you can.
Good stuff. Thanks, Paul.
Cheers.
Yeah, get to the front and increase my lead. That's what everyone wants to do. That's a great year for Paul Forgy. I know last year it was difficult for the team with the performances of Tony Longhurst and Craig Baird. This year, Marcus Ambrose has really put the Stone Brothers Racing team back on the map.
Don't forget to check out the V8 Supercar website on www.v8supercar.com.au for all the information, point scores, drivers, teams, etc. And this weekend we kick off Dream Drive 2001. Check that out on the web as well, dreamdrive.tv. Just emphasise it's .tv, not .com.au. And if you want to have your own theoretical race team and go racing and choose your drivers and all the rest of the things, then check that out on the site and you can play the V8 Supercar game.
Position's fairly static. Lowndes has pumped it out another 10th, so he's looking very comfortable in the lead here. 2.7 seconds the gap over Ambrose. A 1:33.78 for Lowndes, a 1:33.91, so about 0.2 of a second at that time.
There's going to be some pretty pleasing results here. Paul Wheel's in 10th, Paul Morris is in 9th, and Brad Jones is in 8th. So those 3 could really do with a good finish.
Here's Glenn Seaton coming back through the field. He's 19th on the last lap. He's just gone past Dillman, so he's now 18th. But can you imagine the disbelief in his face when he takes the helmet off and talks to the crew when he comes back?
So frustrating.
And I might mention that now sort of, you know, you can never say never, but when you start from down there in the second race, it's very, very hard.
Keep in mind the last Shell Championship Series round victory for Glenn Seaton was right here at Eastern Creek back in 1997. Can you believe it? Seaton's gone 39 championship rounds without a win. It's just amazingly tough. Trying to keep your focus and keep your motivation when you've been out of the winner's circle for that long.
Lowndes' form in this second half of the race has been pretty good. I mean, he was threatening for the lead. Remember, he challenged Glenn on the outside down at turn 2, and then leaving the gap open, Marcus got in there. But it would seem as though he might have a little bit more pace in this second stint, and sometimes that can come from repressuring tyres. And obviously, we're not privy to what went on between Craig and the crew on the radio in the first half of the race, but sometimes a driver might call for a half PSI or a 1 PSI alteration to tyre pressures, which can help your tyres live if they were overinflating beyond the target pressure in your first stint.
Does look so good, that thing, though, doesn't it?
Yeah. We talk about the magic carpet ride. You watch it through some of these turns throughout practice. It just looks so comfortable out there. It almost looks slow. It's doing it so easily and so unruffled that it actually doesn't look that quick. But that's where he's getting the speed from. It's spending all its time going forward instead of going sideways. So Lowndes looking very comfortable. 3.1 seconds now. He's pumped it out to over 3. But look at Scaife just pushing 110% to close the gap to this battle for second between Marcus Ambrose and Greg Murphy.
Mind you, if I was Mark, I'd sort of be thinking, well, what have we got? A couple of laps to go. Start on the second row in the second race. This is not too bad. I mean, the last thing he needs to do at this stage is end up in strife. So as they cross the line, this time it's now 1 to go. Murphy applying the pressure still to Ambrose, but I don't think he's likely to yield. 3.3 seconds that margin, Craig Lowndes to Marcus Ambrose that time across the line.
Get ready for this grandstand to erupt. Craig Lowndes brings us across in first place. It's extraordinary. The turnaround in fan support this man has generated. There are many people who thought Lowndes was only as quick as he was because he was in a Holden Racing Team Commodore, but he's made the switch to this car and this new team and proven equally effective. He's won himself a hell of a lot of new fans. And I can tell you, when you look out at the grandstand here, the number of these Gibson Motorsport merchandise, there's a whole silver and black army out here today.
You see Lowndes' thing through the right and the left, and perfect, spot on.
They used time well yesterday in the 45-minute lunchtime session to really do a rehearsed race run, 15-lap stint, and that way you can see where the tyres trend, and the car's well behaved for sure. This is, I guess, the only argument to be resolved, whether or not Greg Murphy can take any ground from Marcus Ambrose or indeed Mark Scaife. That's the top 4. Beyond those fellas, for information, Bright Bower, Radisic, Brad Jones, Paul Morris, Paul Wheel. So a little bit of a mix-up in the top 10. But this is another excellent performance from Lowndes. 1 corner to run, and not just Craig, but the entire Gibson Motorsport team share in this one. Onto the final corner, down the main straight. The stand erupts, they get on their feet, and Craig Lowndes takes race 1, round 3, Eastern Creek. A popular victory.
Yeah, well done, Gibson Motorsport. They're showing everyone how to do it. 2001. An amazing performance. Once again at Eastern Creek, they dialed the car in very quickly. It was fast here from the moment it hit the track. And Lowndes looking so cool and comfortable leading that one. 3.1 seconds the gap it was at the finish. Marcus Ambrose, a great job to finish second. Such a rookie in V8 Supercar. Greg Murphy in third, the first of the Holdens. Mark Scaife behind him. And Jason Bright in the second Holden Racing Team car, rounding out the top 5.
As you say, 0 to 0. I mean, it's incredible, isn't it? It's a little Seaton 17.
And it's quite, what I find quite extraordinary is coming into this season, Gibson Motorsport, or Fred Gibson said, no, if we're sort of qualifying in the top 10 and we get the odd podium, yeah, I'd be happy with that. That's a pretty good first year. But Lowndes has lifted this team and this operation to another level. The engineering is so strong on the car, and Lowndes is obviously driving it very well.
He's so funny to talk to, Gibbo, isn't he? Because he's so straight. He explains everything as if it's so blatantly obvious.
I mean, I think Fred, more than anyone, is surprised at the performance. I don't think he expected to be in this sort of position so early on.
Well, Greg looks pretty hot under that helmet.
It does, doesn't it? It looks like he's got something in his eyes.
45 minutes around here in a car that's sort of hovering between 45 and 50 degrees with a high heart rate is hard work.
Fastest lap of that race did go to Todd Kelly, a 1:32.86 for the Kmart Commodore driver. As a result of those stops, he ended up 16th.
Great recovery from Mark Scaife to get up to 4th after finding the grass yesterday in qualifying.
That's how Holden Racing Team wins so many championships. When they're down, they always manage to fight their way back into contention, and now he's very handily placed for the start of Heat 2. Should be a fascinating battle. Craig Lowndes, though, wins Heat 1. Marcus Ambrose is second. A Ford 1-2. Greg Murphy and Mark Scaife Third and fourth, Jason Bright, John Bell rounding out the sixth, Paul Radisich and Brad Jones. Good performance in the Aussie Male Ford. He's inside the top 10.
Then we had Paul Morris in ninth, Paul Wheel, great performance, McLean, Longhurst, McDougall, Richards coming back from after leading for a lap or so there. Stephen Johnson, Todd Kelly, the fastest man in the race in 16th. Then Glenn Seaton, Tratt, Bernard, Tander, Dulman, Larkham, Ingle and Perkins. We're back with you in just a moment.